Yeah, you snorkel them in.
And so even Monday, she's like,
Couldn't tell you.
Because I know every project I try to do, the city hits me for at least 3 fire extinguishers, fire hydrants. Oh, I've got one like this. I've got a hydrant here. I've got one here. I'm going to the street. That's plenty of coverage right there.
yeah.
Well, I think so.
Oh my gosh. I had to redo the fire controls on a building.
Told her 8
The outside fire controls on the building.
and that was a lot.
Because they said they were 25 feet too far. But their hoses in the city of Dallas were pre-installed. So I had to bring them in.
Bring the hydrant.
But they made
Bring the
changes.
fire control hookups on the outside of the building where they come in and they can plug in.
Different
I
manipulations.
had to move
So they
25 feet because the hose couldn't reach. I said, well, could you grab the truck?
They make it big enough to read.
No.
And now I'm busy.
It's okay.
On the Empire,
Yeah.
we did that, and then
When
they
we
have
talked about this one on the preliminary, we're talking about fire trucks. This is what.
Okay, folks, we're going to call the meeting of
40
the
feet?
Trophy Club, Town Trophy Club Planning and Zoning Commission for April 5th to order at 7 p.m.
Drive it in and we'll back it up.
We have a quorum with one absent commissioner, Commissioner Rowe. Everyone else is here. You see their names. I'm not going to name them, okay? So, anyway. Do we have anybody that signed up for public comments? No one else is here. Okay, we're going to skip the public comment section since no one's here. We'll go immediately into regular session, case number FP 23002, the Trophy Club Townhomes. Consider and possibly act on a recommendation to the Trophy Club Town Council on a final plat request consisting of 7 townhome lots along with 1 common area lot and 1 private street and utility easement lot on property described as Lot 3R2, Block A, Trophy Wood Business Center. In addition to the town of Trophy Club located at 401 Trophy Club Drive in the town of Trophy Club, Tarrant County, Texas, currently zoned PD 25 planned development. Staff report.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. I'm going to turn this over to Helene for the main details, but I wanted to go over something that I've had a number of questions on over the last 3 or 4 days. One, if y'all recall, the last time that this came to P&Z in the preliminary plat stage, we had David Jones as our planner, who worked for Freeze and Nichols, and it was a very tough time of him, me not knowing him, and a lot of that. So one of the things that has come up is there's a considerable number of staff recommendations on this. So taking into account that we've got, I'm bragging on her, but somebody that's done this a long time, that and trying to be very nice as well, is she's going to find maybe some things that should have been caught on the preliminary plat stage. And so that's therefore kind of cleaning up the preliminary plat as long with doing this final plat as well. I know that was one of the questions that came up. And then also, as y'all know, we've got the shot clock that we're under. So keep in mind that when we get a plat, whether it's preliminary or final plat, the clock starts ticking immediately. So we do a review. We try to get that review done in 5-6 days, and then get that turned back over to them. Then the ball's kind of sitting in their court. So if they have it for 2 or 3 days and get comments back to us, or they have it for 12 days and then get us the comments back, we're still under the clock. This meeting is still going to happen. So just keep in mind that, as well as that we've actually received a few things just in yesterday and today that there's been, some changes. So one of the things, what we printed off to you that's sitting in front of you now is actually different than what was on the packet. And Helene will go over those things, but I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background that sometimes we are going to have quite a few things for consideration or recommendation, but typically by the time it gets to council, we've got it all cleared up. So with that, I'll turn over to Helene.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. So, you're familiar with the location, correct? It's just right across the way. Some of you were probably on P&Z when it went through for zoning and preliminary plating. So this particular tract, it was a part of PD 25. It was rezoned to PD 35, I believe. So it was one lot and it was platted, and the plat before you this evening does conform to the preliminary plat as well as the zoning regulations. The staff report identified the minimum square footage for the lot requirement as well as the average lot size. They do exceed that. The development will require a homeowners association. We're still waiting for them to turn in those documents for the town attorney to review, as well as staff. The engineering plans have been in review for quite a while. Lots of back and forth on that. However, those have been approved by your town engineer as well as the Trophy Club Municipal Utility District. And this is a large image of the preliminary plat, the final plat. You have an updated sheet in front of you this evening that's even newer than what we have on the screen, but I know it's hard to read some of these items on the screen. The staff recommendation, between what you received with your staff report as well as the drawing before you this evening, they have taken care of a number of the items that are in your staff report. For example, number 6, number 7, and number 12, which is not in your staff report. So a lot of these are just housekeeping regarding the that the final plat will not be filed until everything is taken care of according to the subdivision regulations. That includes all the bonds and securities that might be necessary and any developer and subdivision agreements, and until all fees will be paid. We have asked the applicant to explain why a 6-foot privately maintained wall easement that was in a 15-foot landscape easement that parallels. Can you all see? Yes. So in this 15-foot easement, they had another wall, private wall maintenance easement in that area, and it's not on there now. So I had asked them, is it because you just intend for that wall to be somewhere within that 15 feet? So we're waiting to get that answer cleared up. And let's see. The subdivision ordinance requires the landscape and perimeter screening wall plans to be turned in with the plat and engineering plans, and we haven't received those. So those would need to be reviewed, submitted, reviewed, and approved prior to the final plat being filed. And then the tree preservation and removal application, they have not applied for that. I don't know that a formal tree survey with mitigation, identification, the number of inches being removed and replaced, we do not have that at this time. And as well as I said earlier, that the HOA documents needed to be turned in. We did have a new condition, the common area, lot 8X, which is this buffer lot between the private street easement and the lots to the north. This is the common area easement, common area lot. It wasn't included in the general notes on your plat exhibit to be owned and maintained by the HOA, that entire lot. So they have changed that on the plat, the large plat you have in front of you this evening that has not been folded. However, if you see, they didn't number correctly in, 1 through 9, 10, 11, 12. So that is a new comment that staff is requesting to see the general notes section be renumbered. So in summary, I would you know, should you choose to make a recommendation to the city council to approve the final plat, I would say, subject to the staff recommendation, including, without including items 6, 7, and number 12, and the addition of a new number 12 that they renumber the general notes section. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot of information.
Anyone have a question at this point? I have one. How come we're always under the time frame, but they apparently are not, to get their stuff in? I mean, can anyone answer that question?
State law.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, this is crazy. Someone should be kicking these guys or calling them and saying, hey, what's going on? We need this, or you aren't going to get approved. We aren't going to recommend we approve this final plat. And then you'll say, well, it becomes approved anyway if we don't do it. Is that's what I'm hearing? It seems to be a lot of that in each final plat that we look at in the last 2 or 3 months.
Yes, sir.
I just can't figure out why we can't streamline this situation and get it a little closer to where it needs to be. I'm not talking to you or staff. I'm just saying, you know, these developers come in here and they say, oh, well, we'll get around to that later, like the HOA documents. You know, well, that's not appropriate. Sorry.
Agreed. It is frustrating.
It's incredibly
There's
frustrating
I
for us
think-
to spend our time up here and there's 12 exceptions to the thing, you know, and it's a tiny little spot. How hard can this be, guys? Hire some people who can draw flat and draw it correctly, you know, instead of
Yes.
make us run around in circles. I'm just venting right now because it's frustrating as heck. You know, does anyone disagree with?
No, and I'll just weigh in. They didn't come up with this idea overnight. They've had time to put their
It was
stuff
months
together.
ago. It was months ago.
Yeah,
We
it was months
they
ago that
submitted
they
the
had to put
preliminary.
all this stuff together. And the reluctance to provide the information in a timely manner makes me cautious of giving them any approvals moving forward. If you take the carrot away, you know,
Plus,
I
there's no
just don't
representative
think
here
we're
tonight
gonna
to
get-
answer any of these
Yeah.
things. Why you guys are not providing the information that's required. And staff has told you it's required in a timely basis. And so we get under the gun and then, well, they take 12 days to get back out of the time frame. Not my problem. Shouldn't be our problem anyway, you know, if they're in good faith trying to get something built in our city. So even though they own the land, that's okay. But there are still rules that go along with that, you know.
I have a couple of comments as well, which just to add to the record, when this originally came up, it was pretty controversial.
It was
for a
incredibly
relative.
controversial.
It was being fought a lot by the people on the street behind it. I can't understand. I know the MUD's put all of the work and effort into prepping so that when it does go in, it's all there to be connected under the road. But what I don't really understand is why this has gone on for so long, and it doesn't even make economic sense because house prices are set to continue going down. I would have thought
And interest rates up. and
I'd have
construction
been laying the
loans not
bricks the
exist.
next morning. I mean, you know, so it just doesn't seem right. Something doesn't seem right with this.
So, Mr. Chair, or
Go ahead.
I'll echo the comments that you were speaking to previously, and I'm not disagreeing with anything that you others have mentioned as well. I want to kind of think back in terms of like procedurally, though, the process that's been brought before us in evaluating this as it relates to the PD and our ordinances. What is the minimum that's required that we should be considering for this before we would make a recommendation, not an approval, right? Make a recommendation to council. And so I'm wondering how that comes into the fray here that may help some of us in our positions and actually kind of our caution and concern about this. So I would expect that since you all brought this before us, right, to make recommendation, that there's, the sentiment is they are meeting what that minimum is for us to make a recommendation to council. But I'm just wondering if that's written somewhere or if it's something that we needed to maybe think more on at a future point in time on maybe we need to establish, here's actually what the minimum requirements are going to be before you bring it to this body. And before then, we can make a recommendation to go to council if it's not something that's already set in state law.
I think it goes back to the problem where once the process is set in motion with the preliminary plat, the time ticker starts. And where we end up finding ourselves is, okay, we're gonna make a recommendation to city council, if they approve this final plat subject to these 47 conditions that they failed to get done during the timely, we did our part. We even rezoned this for them, didn't we?
Yes.
Weren't we nice enough to do that for them?
Yes.
And they can't show up at the meeting? It is frustrating, but the only thing we can do, to correct me if I'm wrong, is we can make a recommendation to approve this final plat for council to consider it subject to all these things that are on here. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
That's basically what our job is tonight.
So we have, so on this list, we've got staff recommendations. Some of these things don't necessarily need to be in front of you because it's in our ordinance. It's just informational. So when we say this won't be filed until this, that's not something that they can do or not do. If maybe you can help me with the wording, but like for, example on number 2, where bonds and securities, we don't necessarily need to put that on there. It's just for your information to know.
No, I understand that.
We're not gonna, now, some of the things you're absolutely correct on. We've asked them to do this. We've been waiting for them to do this, and it hasn't gotten done. You're absolutely correct. We could probably reduce this list down, taking out just the general information of things on just the procedure of what we do before this gets filed, not approved, but actually filed with the county. We could probably reduce this quite a bit, if that makes sense as well. I'm not defending it at all.
No, I
What I'm
understand.
just saying is that we've provided a lot more information than may be necessary.
Have they applied for a construction permit yet?
No, they're not allowed to.
But
Yeah.
didn't Beck get a temporary permit on this last one we did last month?
That's only for early grading. That's only basically just the big
I
piles
kinda
of
like to
dirt.
see all this stuff worked out before you give them a permit till you can get started.
Right.
Let's
But
squeeze them economically a little bit. So
That's
if you guys
where-
wanna get your job done,
Yeah.
then you do this.
You're right, Chairman, and that is one of the, it says it in a few places that you won't get your, what did you call it here, an earth
Earth
disturbance
or early
permit?
grading.
Right, because we don't want them touching anything, and when we put these lists together, it's a heads up to their consultant as well as the developer. You have a list of things to do, and if you list it as just, oh, this is just informational, remember you need to do it, it's not enforced. When we attach them as conditions to the approval for the plat, then we have that leverage that we're not filing it, or you're not getting an early grading permit until you take care
It
of.
would seem like the tree preservation removal application is really critical when you start moving dirt, before you start moving dirt.
That's correct.
Right,
Those kind of things. I just want to make sure we're holding these people's feet to the fire now if they want to hold us to the fire.
yes,
Because
sir.
we're put in a position now where this guy came to us months ago and then didn't do anything for months. And I realize they were putting a water main through the middle of this project that had nothing to do with providing this documentation up to us or forming the HOA and all that stuff that should have been done or could have been done during that period of time. I just don't like being here, sitting here spending our time, making recommendations to council on things we really don't control and subject to 12 conditions before you can, quote, file the plat. Well, filing the plat can be for 12 months from now, right? Yeah, I mean, as long as, yeah, exactly. But I mean, these are just cleanup items and stuff, and somehow we need to squeeze these guys, he were definitely right, Commissioner Poole, about the controversial in these citizens here. They got pretty heated here. And that guy was pretty cocky. I'll go ahead and say that because he was. It's on tape somewhere. But then to be cocky and not give us what we want, that really, really, really offends me.
And that's why your staff review is
And
thorough.
we get paid a lot of money to do this,
So, Mr. Chair, I mean,
Yeah, we got
to your
Tootsie
point,
Rolls the last time.
Yeah.
some of what was described by you all as including these as conditions, that more or less allows for the town to have some teeth, right?
It gives the leverage
It
back.
gives the
Well,
leverage
it gives the
back.
leverage to the council to say, again, though, there's a time frame involved here. And I don't know who lobbied that in, but, of course, I understand why, to a certain extent. There's some small-minded towns, I'm sure, around. But you know, you're right, we send it to council, it's up to them to approve the final plat, or the stipulations, or the conditions that relate to the final plat, which we've done numerous times, right? I keep pointing at Dennis and that guy over there.
You sat in the wrong seat.
Is it the staff's recommendation that we approve it subject to the following 12 conditions now?
Yes, sir.
So I would so move that we do that.
Do we have a second? Time out? More comments, discussion?
I think the description that we had for the motion probably should be read almost that way. I agree. I'm with you. But to Helene's point, you know, subject to staff recommendations excluding 6, 7, and 12 with the new 12, that says you'll renumber the general notes. I think she gave us enough of what they were looking for as far as in the motion description to move on it. It's just my thought.
I can give it to her.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I think there's a third option that we've done before, and that's table it.
No, sir, we can't table a plat.
We've done it.
Now, what we tabled, what was that we tabled?
The zoning.
Huh?
It was the zoning issue.
The zoning issue.
That's different.
Yeah, that was on the,
It was, what was the Beck Townhomes out by Byron Nelson and his.
yeah, and there was another one we tabled, wasn't it? It had to do with the electrical chargers.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, because that,
Yeah,
all the notices gone
yeah.
out, and all, yeah, all that stuff. That was gonna be left open. And they haven't been back either, have they?
No.
No. They're probably getting their HOA together.
Is there anything in the staff recommendations that changes the plat anymore, or changes it in a way where
No, sir.
we wouldn't see it as it's close to final state?
No, sir, it's close enough. It's it's good. There's some fine tuning. And we do have a checklist that has requirements based on, you know, is it a preliminary plat, final plat, amended plat? But a lot of times in the subdivision regulations, there's some fine print, or even in the engineering design standards that don't really make it on to that list. And most of the time when a consultant does the checklist, they just check off every box and turn it in. Nobody really does a quality control to make sure they've jumped through all the hoops before they're supposed to submit.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I got one more question on item number 1. It's, you know, this is one of those final plats, not going to be filed ones. And it has, until everything in the ordinance has been completed and the grading permit will not be issued until what?
All of these conditions.
All those conditions?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. Okay. I thought there might be something else that was supposed to be there. Got it.
Well, one last question, just, and this is me going off memory. So the community members that back up to say lot, what is it, 15 through 22 that I think,
Amy Court, yeah.
so am I remembering correctly that essentially what was arrived at for kind of the resolution for the concerns they had about screening or any sort of way to kind of detract from what they felt were going to be impacts from this development to their homes and their backyards? It's really just kind of screening through vegetation, or is that correct? So it has to be 6 feet tall, is kind of what I'm reading, but it's pretty open-ended or loose what the screening is.
Well, they haven't turned in their landscape and screening plans. That's one of the conditions. Mm-hmm. We need to see those plans to make sure it meets the zoning regulations.
Okay.
Wasn't this also the properties that were townhomes that had like an upper deck?
Line of sight was an issue during the original conversations.
Yeah, I seem to remember that. So that's now, if I'm remembering correctly, then that up deck is now facing HG Supply in that area, right?
I think that's right. And then,
The Hampton Inn,
It was just the,
Was it?
Hampton Inn.
That's very pretty.
they have a screening for the HVAC equipment. And then behind the HVAC equipment was gonna be that patio. And so the concerns from the neighbors was, could they sit up on the patio, and see in? And the way that he moved everything back,
to the back.
yeah, there wasn't gonna be a line
Yeah.
of sight or vision.
Okay.
So, and then also just the main concern of just having the HVAC equipment hidden, since it's going to be up at the front of each of the homes. But that purlin wall would sit up higher than the HVAC equipment.
So maybe again, I'm going off my own memory, which is questionable at times. So the original plat had these properties pretty much on the other side of that road, right?
No.
It was always been in this
Yes, sir.
direction? Okay. Yeah, confused.
But there were, I think, two of the homeowners, when they came in, they were looking at the plat the other way around. They were really concerned this was gonna back up to them, and it was just, they were looking at it from.
Yep.
So,
So I do have another question. Where does the fire access easement dump out? I show the entrance off Trophywood. Where does, on the backside, where does it dump out to? Or is that a dead end?
It's a cul-de-sac that meets the fire.
So it has a turning radius sufficient to get
Yes.
the trucks around without having to back out?
Right.
And are there any hydrants planned for any of this? I don't have my glasses, I can't read Jack. So, sorry.
I don't have the civil plans with me,
Okay.
and
it's on the outside. It's actually on Trophywood Drive. I can't remember
Okay.
if it's on the north side
All
of
right.
the.
Yeah, that's just a question I had as far as water supply to,
The fire marshal then was, I think Gary Cochran actually looked at it initially and was fine with it on that. And so, and it's really translated, even the new fire marshal, Ken, has looked at this and is fine.
okay, good, good. I was just worried about reach. We were talking earlier about whether or not they were just gonna squirt from the easement.
Yeah.
Or the access easement in the back, and it's like, that's not the best. So,
And keep in mind, all of these are sprinklered. They're fully sprinklered townhomes.
okay.
So,
All right, one more thing. We talked about a traffic study, when we were discussing the preliminary. And it was, if I remember correctly, I think one will be conducted. And the question is, is there an update status to that, or, when does that happen?
That was in relationship to the gate and where it was gonna be.
if they were gonna have a gate.
In a peer meeting.
No.
As I remember, that the question for the traffic study was, is there gonna be a gate here? Is the gate out at the road where everybody's gonna back up and you can't get out of Jamie Court because they're waiting for the gate to open? Or for not just so much for the residents, but suppose the landscape guy is blocking. So that was gonna be depending upon where that gate is, and I don't know where the gate is.
Well, he specifically said that night there was not gonna be a gate.
Right.
So,
And I remember.
At council.
And that would negate having now I'm going off of what I remember, because I
Yeah.
was wrong. But it had to do with people on Jamie Court were very concerned with not being able to get out.
As they should.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Or if you have a delivery truck trying to get in through the gate and it has to stop.
It is something that needs to be brought up and double checked.
Related, I would,
Official, yes, no,
Well, the other thing was too, I remember, this I know, that we talked about, that median, and maybe making an opening in the median for this new Scheffler Court, is it?
yes.
For that new road, just like for, I think it's Inverness, or no, for that development north of it, there's that break in the median so that people can turn left instead of going to the stop sign, turning around
Yeah, it's Inverness.
and coming back. Is it
Yeah,
Inverness?
I don't wanna speak incorrectly, so I can get back to you, but I know that TMP did go out and look at a few different options for that on the turn in, and then also their recommendation on, does this need to be done or not as well. So I have to go back and look in notes.
Is the assumption today there is no gate,
That's correct.
which solved part of the problem?
That's what they told me.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, something related to what was just mentioned is as you're approaching actually where this ingress and egress of the development is going to occur, you know, there's actually an opportunity just up, I guess, north from where we're at, where cars can queue up and park on the road. And actually on my way here, I intentionally wanted to drive by the development just to kind of see it again, kind of refresh my memory, because something that had come up before was even maybe some sort of traffic calming measures. And it could be in the form of signage. It could be in the form of just something that might remind folks that, hey, be cautious or careful because you're going to be seeing cars turning into and out of this area. And I think just the way the sight line changes as you're coming down the road, the fact that there can be cars parked up the road, right, and just off right next to kind of really essentially the shoulder, if you will. Those are some concerns that I remember that came up as well as it relates to traffic in that area. So I think it would be good just to kind of maybe revisit that and have that maybe prepared for council in terms of what we had arrived at, because I honestly just don't recall, and I'm not sure any of us do, because it's been such a long period of time.
Yeah, the only thing I remember was that a study was gonna be conducted. There was nothing definite at that point.
One other question I had that wasn't related to that, so I was going to pivot unless you all had anything else related to the traffic measures. It was on the staff recommendations, and this was just another point of clarity that I was just kind of curious about. I think this is pretty simple, but on number 7, it says applicant to provide explanation of why the 6-foot privately maintained wall easement was removed from the plat. So as a part of the plat, is the expectation that 6-foot wall easement should be there? And why is it removed? So the expectation is that they should actually put it back in, or we only need an explanation for why it was removed?
The easement showed up on the preliminary plat that was approved, but that easement fell within a 15-foot landscape easement. So that, I didn't understand why we were duplicating landscaping and screening.
Okay.
But I have not received an answer back on that.
So that's still one of the conditions.
Yes, sir.
So I guess what I was trying to figure out is an explanation is essentially what's written as the condition here, but is there something more than what the explanation we'd be looking for, something more than just simply an explanation? There's actually a result or an action of that.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're saying number 7 is not completed?
No, number 7 is completed. Oh, wait, let me go to
That was the wall thing.
The 15-foot rear setback.
okay, on our screens, it's number 8.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, the staff report and what I presented this evening changed because we've been getting updated drawings from the time we published the agenda packet.
Okay, so the wall's not done, but the 15-foot landscape is, and the rear yard setback is.
So 5 and 6 of the packet materials are
So,
completed.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I think it's still 6 and 7 excluded.
Well, on our thing,
Right,
it's
but it's-
5 and 6, but
yeah.
on that, it's 6
Right,
and 7.
and that's what I think Helene was talking
Yeah.
about when she mentioned excluding those 2 items, 6 and 7, that they track what they have on the screen.
Okay, I got it.
I was lost for a while. But I can read that.
On your, I'll go back to the one you have the paper in front of you. Number 5, that one's okay, so that one can be removed, and number 6 can be removed. And then I would add the newest one, which is they need to renumber their general notes section.
And I think that was 12 that we don't have on the packet.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's confusing.
No, I was just curious about which way, when we make the motion, which numbers do we use? Do we use the numbers on the screen or the ones?
Whichever one is, ones are easiest for you.
No, well, the only reason I ask is because they do change. Back to the question on why the screening. It says he will give an explanation. That's 8 on the screen, but it's 7 in the packet. So when we reference it, we
Right.
want to get the number right.
You tell
To
me
what
which
you
one,
want.
because I read the staff report. You can remove 5 and 6
Okay.
and add the number 12, as you stated, for renumbering the general notes section.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a number 11?
Well,
Yes.
We got 10 in here, now there's a 12. Is there an 11?
I finish it.
it would be 11 because number 12 was was on the slides. Actually, no, it wasn't because that 12 they took care of. That's not in your staff report.
Okay.
Thank you, Helen Eve. We're not trying to make this difficult on you.
Well, another reason why
we
they
are.
need to do their, another reason why they don't need to turn in sloppy plans.
This is,
Exactly.
we would all agree on that.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So we need do we need an amended motion? Or what he,
Okay, we'll go by the staff report. If you all choose to make a motion to approve, it should be approved with the conditions 5, 6, and 5, 6 removed, and 11 added, which would be renumbering the general notes section.
so Commissioner Stevens, is that
Yes,
your revised?
with the, and should we remove them? Should we renumber the recommendations
No,
with the removed ones out?
let's keep them, because then in the minutes, we can go back and understand which.
Okay. So,
That is your revised motion,
yes, approval,
what she said.
subject to the conditions as listed, except for 5, 6, and adding 11.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, update, we have any updates or anything else going on?
Yeah, the updates are gonna be easier than what we just went through.
They don't involve plats, do they?
No,
That's good.
Are they numbered?
and they're not numbered. Okay, as y'all probably seen, around town, so 7 and H, they are underway. Going back to these conditions, all of those conditions have been met for them to begin construction. So, developer agreements have been signed, parkland dedication fees have been turned in, the construction costs have been approved by engineering for 7 and 8H. Currently, 7H, which is Falcon Estates at the end of, over there by Mona Vale, the tractors are there, they're actually doing full-blown civil work. So if you go and look, they have 10, 12, 14-foot trenches that they're digging in for water, sewer, and that. Next week, they've given us a traffic control plan. They will break through Kent Street there at Monaville to tie in water. So we've got the MUD, the district is there doing their inspections for connections, and then TMP, we've got a construction inspector, and then my guy, Kevin Odell in streets, he's also there. So it's a big project, and the guys are there, if not every day, then every other day, looking at some portion to inspect to move forward. So that 7H, 8H, the only thing they're doing right now is just smoothing out the dirt, not tearing any walls down or anything like that. It's just kind of prep. And you'll see where they will take out that sidewalk, because that early grading will go all the way to curb. 2H and 3H were dropped off Tuesday, application, and so y'all will see that at next P&Z meeting. Those should be a lot more clear, kind of like this last one that we did with 4H. It was pretty smooth sailing. So, you know, in regards to this one, different developer, whatever, but 4H was pretty smooth going through here and council. I don't expect anything different on 2H and 3H. And those will be the last two of all the Gaswell sites, except for just up there by Byron Nelson, those townhomes. And he hasn't given us any timeline on that yet. A vet clinic has dropped off for SUP at PD 30 to take over the area where 3 volt was. So y'all will be seeing that soon. Let's see. So Hutchins Barbecue kind of threw us for a loop a little bit. They're wanting on this, if you're looking at Hutchins from here on the left side, that container outside, it's not a storage container. It's actually, it was for the trophy table. It was all of their beer coolers and their Hutchins. They don't serve alcohol. So they're wanting that to be removed, and they want to actually have storage containers there. Outside storage is not allowed. So they're gonna want to come and ask y'all about that on adding storage containers out there.
And so that's even with exterior screening?
Yes. So that'll be, that will be our recommendation is screen, tall, you know, but that's for y'all to decide. I think that's all. We do have a, that's also Hutchins, but they got signs that are, they're wanting to replace. It looks like it's going to be like for like. I'll know tomorrow when they send me the very final version. So it may just be identical exactly what's at the trophy table, just going back exactly the same size, no change except for just verbiage on that. So that's all I've got.
Any questions, comments, any motions to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you get your blood pressure.
It did turn out that way, didn't it?